There was a time they walked toward you like they already won. Chest out, chin up, energy loud. Like the conversation was already over before it started. Like your response didn't matter. Like you were already defeated and just hadn't been told yet. That was then. Now, I'm picking up something completely different. Now I'm seeing the same person. Check the room before they enter it. I'm seeing them clock where you are before they decide where to stand. I'm seeing them choose the far side, the quiet corner, the exit closest to where you're not, and you didn't say a word. You didn't make a move. You didn't plan this. You didn't strategize, didn't retaliate, didn't even address it. You just kept going. And that right there is what completely unraveled them. What they thought they knew. Here's what I keep getting, right at the top of this reading. This person had a whole picture of you in their head. A complete one, detailed. They thought they had studied you long enough, watched you close enough, tested you enough times to know exactly how you work. They thought they knew your breaking point. They thought they knew which words land, which silence hurts, which kind of distance makes you reach, which kind of coldness makes you bend. They thought, and I keep hearing this so clearly, they thought you were predictable, and that confidence, that certainty that they had you mapped, that was their first mistake. Because what they were actually doing while they were busy studying you was completely missing who you were becoming. They were so focused on the version of you that reacted, the version that responded, the version they could move and push and provoke. They never saw the other version coming. The version that simply stopped. The door closes. I want you to feel this image. A room, two people, one of them talking, pushing, testing, waiting for the flinch, and the other one, you, just slowly, quietly turning around, walking to the door, opening it, and closing it behind you. No speech, no final word, no dramatic exit. That image keeps coming through very strongly. And it's important because the moment that door closed, something shifted that this person was not prepared for. They were ready for your anger. They had a whole response loaded for that. They were ready for your tears. They knew exactly what to do with that version of you. They were ready for you to reach back out. They had that mapped too. What to say, how long to wait, how much to give to pull you back in. But the door just closing, no argument on the other side of it, no knocking, no sound at all. They had nothing for that. Nothing. In the entire playbook covers that. And I'm seeing them stand there, on the other side of that closed door, with all that prepared energy and absolutely nowhere to put it. That is where they are right now. Still standing there, still holding everything they had ready for a fight that never came. Your spiritual card in this reading. Now, I need to stop here because something just came through, and I have to address it before we go any further. This card, right here, this is you in this reading. And I want to be specific about what this means because I don't throw this around lightly. This is the energy of someone who knows, not someone who argues what they know, not someone who proves what they know, not someone who defends or explains or justifies, just knows. Walks into a room and sees the whole picture before most people have finished saying hello. Reads a situation before it finishes unfolding. Feels the truth underneath what someone is performing and files it away quietly without making a show of filing it. That is you. And this person, the one this reading is about, they felt that from the beginning. They felt it, and it scared them. Because people who operate the way they operate, through manipulation, through pressure, through reading weaknesses and pressing on them, those people are terrified of someone who cannot be read the same way back. They couldn't get underneath you. They kept trying and kept hitting something solid. And instead of stepping back and asking themselves why, they pushed harder. That was their second mistake. What your silence actually did? I want to talk about the silence, because this reading is full of it. Your silence is loud, by the way. I need you to know that. It doesn't feel loud from where you're standing. From where you're standing, it probably just feels like peace, or exhaustion, or the decision that some things simply are not worth your energy. But from where they're standing, your silence is the loudest thing in the room. Because every day that goes by where you don't reach out, that's a day they have to sit with what they did. Every day you don't address it, they can't get closure, can't rewrite the story, can't position themselves as the reasonable one, who got an irrational response from you. Your silence takes that away from them completely. They needed you to react, desperately. A reaction would have given them something to work with, something to spin, something to show other people and say, see, look how they responded. Look how emotional. Look how unstable. You gave them nothing. And nothing is the one thing they cannot turn into a story. Your silence is not weakness. Your silence is the most sophisticated response you could have given. And somewhere, on some level, they know that. That knowing is eating them alive. Have you noticed the behavioral shift? But before we go deeper, I need to ask you something. And I need you to actually check this against your real life, not hypothetically, actually. Because what I'm about to describe, some of you are already living this right now, this week, and you might not have had language for it until this moment. Have you noticed that someone who always had an opinion about everything you did has suddenly gone completely quiet? Like this person had a comment ready for every single move you made, every decision, every change, everything you posted, every direction you went. They had something to say about it. And now, nothing, not one word. And the silence from them is somehow louder than all the noise ever was. Have you noticed someone who used to walk into shared spaces like they owned them? Confident, taking up room, making sure their presence was felt. The second they arrived, now suddenly doesn't know where to put themselves. When you're near, like they lose the script, like that big loud energy just quietly folds the moment you're in the same space. They're suddenly very interested in their phone, very busy with something across the room, very focused on anything that isn't your face. Have you noticed someone who used to test you, who used to poke, provoke, drop little comments to see how you'd respond, has completely stopped testing? Not because they became a better person overnight, because they finally got an answer they weren't ready for. The answer was you not responding at all. And that answer scared them more than anything you could have said. Have you noticed someone going out of their way to seem unbothered? Performing peace they clearly don't have. Posting things that are a little too curated. Saying things that are a little too casual. Laughing a little too loudly at things that aren't that funny. That performance, that's not confidence. That's someone working very hard to look like they aren't affected. Unbothered people don't perform unbothered. They just are. And then this one is important. Have you noticed someone who was cold toward you, dismissive, made you feel invisible, now suddenly being almost uncomfortably warm, too available, too agreeable, too nice, smiling in a way that has a question underneath it? I need to say something very clearly about that. That warmth is not a change of heart. That warmth is a strategy. It's what someone does when the old strategy stopped working and they need a new angle in. Don't mistake the warmth for growth. Your gut already knows the difference. It has always known the difference, even in the moments you wanted to believe otherwise, even in the moments you talked yourself out of what you felt. Your gut was right. Every single time, it was right. The addiction nobody talks about. Now I want to talk about what's really driving their behavior, because I keep getting something very specific, and it explains everything. This person is not trying to come back. because they love you. Not because they miss who you are. Not because they had some awakening and realized they were wrong. They're coming back, or trying to, because you cut something off that they were depending on. Let me explain. When someone can affect your emotions, when they can pull a reaction from you on demand, they get something from that. A sense of control, a sense of power, the confirmation that they matter, that they have impact, that they can move you whenever they want to. And you, specifically you, gave them a very particular version of that. Not because you were weak, because you were real, because you actually felt things and didn't always hide it perfectly. And they got used to that, got dependent on it. So when you stopped, when you closed that door, and the reactions just didn't come anymore, they didn't just lose a person, they lost the supply. And I keep hearing two words very clearly: access denied. That is what they are hitting every time they reach in your direction right now. Not a soft wall, not a maybe, not an opening, just access denied. And the withdrawal from that is real. It explains the sudden warmth, the accidental run-ins, the message through a mutual, the like on something old, the reach disguised as casual. None of that is casual. All of it is someone trying to find a door that no longer exists. And here is what I need you to understand. You did not close that door in anger. You closed it in clarity. That is a completely different thing. Anger slams, clarity just clicks, shut, quietly, finally, completely. The numbers coming through. I have to stop for a second because numbers keep flashing very strongly in this reading. And I don't skip these. The first one is 555. If you have been seeing 555 on a clock, a receipt, a random number that keeps showing up, hear this. 555 is massive change, already in motion, not coming, already moving. The shift has already started, and you are inside it right now, whether it feels that way or not. The second number is 1111, and I'm getting this specifically for the situation this reading is about. 1111 is alignment. It means the version of events playing out right now. The silence, the distance, the way things are unfolding is not random. It is exactly what was supposed to happen. You are on the right path. Even when it feels like nothing is happening, you are on the right path. And the third number, this one I wasn't expecting, but it keeps coming, and I have to say it. 222 is patience, being rewarded. Something you have been holding steady on, something you have been trusting without visible proof, is about to show you why you were right to hold. Not long now. If any of these numbers have been following you, that is not coincidence. That is confirmation. What is happening in the sky right now? And I want to speak to the timing of this because the energy in the sky right now is directly connected to what you're experiencing. We are in a period where Saturn, the planet of consequences, of reality arriving, of what you actually did, showing up at your door, is burning through illusions, whatever false story someone built around what happened between you and them, whatever version of events they constructed to make themselves look like the reasonable one. Saturn does not allow that to stand forever. Reality always catches up, and for some of you, the timing of that catching up is right now. The fog is lifting, and what's underneath it is the truth, which was always on your side. The contrast, your world versus theirs. Now, I want to show you something because this reading has two very different pictures in it, and I need you to see both of them clearly. On your side of this reading, I'm seeing movement, real movement. Not the kind you manufacture, not the kind you perform for other people to see, the kind that happens quietly, underneath everything, like water finding its level. Doors that were stuck are becoming unstuck. Conversations that needed to happen are starting to happen. Something you put energy into, something you built, during the period when nobody was watching and nobody was clapping, is starting to get seen. Not by everyone, by the right people. And there is a difference. I'm also seeing rest, real rest. The kind that comes when you stop carrying something that was never yours to carry in the first place. Some of you are sleeping better. Some of you have a quiet in your days that wasn't there before, and you're not sure what to do with it yet because you're so used to the noise. That quiet is not emptiness. That quiet is what peace actually feels like. You forgot because it's been a while, but it's yours. It came back. On their side of this reading, I'm seeing the opposite. I'm seeing someone who thought they had solid ground, discovering that the ground was never as solid as it looked, plans that seemed certain, not coming through the way they expected, relationships they were depending on, showing cracks, and a version of themselves they were presenting to the world, getting harder and harder to maintain. I keep getting this image of someone pedaling as hard as they can and not moving forward, just working, straining, exhausting themselves completely. And when they look up from all that effort, you have already moved. Without the effort, without the strain, just moved. And that contrast, you moving with ease, while they exhaust themselves going nowhere, that is the thing burning them the most right now. Not what you said, not what you did, just the simple, undeniable fact of where you are versus where they are. They can see it, they hate that they can see it, and they cannot look away. They had a front row seat to your building. Here is something that I find extraordinary about this situation. This person was present for your process. They were there, or close enough to there, during the period when you were doing the invisible work, the unglamorous work, the kind of work that has no audience and no applause and no external confirmation that it's even working. They watched you during that, and they misread it completely. They saw you quiet and thought you were finished. They saw you still and thought you had given up. They saw you stop responding and thought you had nothing left. They were watching the wrong thing, because while they were watching for your collapse, measuring for it, waiting for it, maybe even counting on it, you were building something underneath the surface that they had absolutely no frame of reference for. And now they have a front row seat to what that building produced. They cannot avoid it. They cannot unsee it. They have to watch from exactly where they chose to position themselves, from the distance they chose, from behind whatever they built between you. They have to watch you arrive. And I keep hearing something very specific. They expected to be ahead of you by now. That was the plan in their head. That was what was supposed to happen after they made their moves. You were supposed to be behind, struggling, reaching back. Instead, they look up and you are already somewhere they haven't gotten to yet. That gap between where they expected you to be and where you actually are, that gap is the thing that broke them. Not a fight, not a confrontation, just reality. Just the simple, quiet, devastating reality of who you actually are versus the diminished version of you they decided to believe in. They were training you without knowing it. Now, I want to reframe something because this part matters, and I don't want you to miss it. Every single thing this person put you through, every test, every pressure, every moment they tried to make you feel small, every time they underestimated you out loud, every door they closed in your face, every time they bet against you, was a training session that they paid for. Think about that. They were the ones who initiated it. They were the ones who kept escalating it. They were so certain. They were breaking you down. But here's what was actually happening. Every time they tested your patience got deeper. Every time they tested your boundaries got clearer. Every time they tried to shake your confidence found a root it didn't have before. Every time they tried to make you need their approval, you got a little more comfortable not having it. They were a training program, a brutal one, an uninvited one you never signed up for. But you completed it. Every level, every round, every pressure test, they ran on you. You came out the other side of all of it, knowing something about yourself that you could not have known any other way. You know what you're made of. Not because someone told you, not because circumstances were easy, because you went through the hard version and you're still standing. They thought they were dismantling you. They were calibrating you. And what got calibrated is something they are now deeply, privately, uncomfortably aware. They cannot handle. Specific things coming through. I'm getting some very specific details right now, and I want to share them. Numbers first. The number 8 keeps coming through very strongly for your situation. 8 is power, returning to its rightful place. 8 is the cycle, completing. 8 is the energy of what goes around, arriving exactly where it's supposed to. If 8 has been showing up in your life, an address, a time, a date, pay attention to it. I'm also getting the number 19, and specifically the 19th as a date that carries weight in this situation. Something either happened around this date or something connected to the situation will become clear around a 19th. Take note of that. For initials, I'm getting a strong J energy. First name or last name, someone connected to the situation. I'm also getting the letters M and A coming through. Could be one name, could be 2 different people connected to this reading. For timing, I keep hearing the word soon, not years, not even many months. Something is moving toward a conclusion in this situation that is closer than it currently feels. And for location, I keep seeing somewhere familiar, not far, not exotic, somewhere you have already been, already know, somewhere that holds memory connected to the situation. Something comes full circle in a familiar place. If any of that landed, that's your confirmation. This reading is yours. Now, I need to talk about something that has been sitting underneath this entire reading. Something bigger than the person, bigger than the situation, bigger than anything either of you did or didn't do. Because I keep getting this very clearly, and I would be doing this reading a disservice if I moved past it. You were covered the whole time. Not sometimes, not in the big moments only, the whole time. Every moment of the situation, even the moments that felt completely abandoned. Even the moments the silence from above felt deafening. Even the moments you were asking why and getting no answer. You were covered. Let me show you what that coverage looked like. Every time this person made a move that should have landed, it didn't land the way they planned. Every time they tried to position you as less, something shifted it. Every time they thought they had the upper hand, something they couldn't control moved the board. They couldn't see it. They just kept experiencing the results of it. Plans not working, moves not landing. The story they were trying to write about you not sticking the way stories usually stick for them. That was not luck. That was not coincidence. That was something assigned to you long before this person ever entered your life, standing between you and anything they tried to send your way. And I want to say something about that assignment, because this is important. God did not give you an easy road. He gave you the right road. And those are 2 completely different things. The right road for you required specific things that an easy road could not have grown in you. It required you to find out what you're made of when the support disappears, when the validation disappears, when the evidence disappears and all you have left is your own knowing. Most people fall apart in that space. You didn't fall apart. You got quiet, you got still, you got clear. And that clarity, that hard-earned, nobody gave it to you, survived the fire clarity, is something this person looked at and felt completely threatened by. Because they have never had to build anything from nothing. They have never had to find out who they are. when everything is stripped away. They don't know what they're made of, without the performance, without the status, without the things they use to feel powerful. You do. And that knowing, the kind that lives in your bones, not just your head, that is what they kept bumping into every time they tried to find your weakness. There was no weakness there, just foundation, justice, not revenge. I need to be very precise about something. What is happening to this person right now? The things slipping, the plans falling apart, the ground becoming unsteady. You did not cause that. You are not running any strategy. You are not orchestrating anything. You made one decision: to stop, to close the door, to keep living. That's it. Everything unfolding for them right now is not your doing. It is the universe keeping records. And I want to sit with that image for a moment because it matters. There is a record of every move made in private that this person thought no one saw, of everything said about you behind closed doors, of every manipulation, every pressure point pressed, every time they used your trust against you. Every single thing is on that record. And here's what makes that record different from anything human. It cannot be charmed. It cannot be argued with. It cannot be spun or reframed or explained away. Every entry is exact, precise, permanent, and the settlement on that record is not happening on your timeline. It's not happening on their timeline. It's happening on the only timeline that actually matters, the right one. And what I keep seeing is that the settlement has already begun. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, the way real things always move. They feel it though, even if they can't name what they're feeling. That low-level unease, that sense that something is no longer working the way it used to, that feeling of reaching for something solid and finding it slightly less solid than yesterday. That is the record being settled. You don't have to watch it. You don't have to track it. You don't have to confirm it or wait for proof. Just keep moving forward. The record handles itself. The return attempts how to read them. Now, I have to address something because it keeps coming up in this reading, and I cannot skip it. There have been attempts, or there are about to be, a message that comes sideways, a reach through someone mutual, a sudden appearance somewhere they knew you'd be, a like on something old, a comment that was carefully casual, an apology that arrived with very specific timing. And I need you to hear what I'm about to say very clearly. Read the timing, not the words, because the words will sound good. The words might even sound genuine. The words have been chosen carefully because this person knows what lands with you and what doesn't. But the timing tells the truth. Did this reach happen after something good became visible in your life? Did it happen after you stopped being reachable? Did it happen when something in their world started getting difficult? Because love does not have that timing. Love reaches out when it misses you. What they are experiencing has a different kind of reaching, the kind that happens when the supply gets cut, when the control disappears, when they realize that the version of you they had access to is no longer available, and they need to find a way back in. I keep hearing something very specific. The door they are knocking on does not exist anymore. Not because you built a wall in anger, not because you are punishing them, simply because the person who would have opened that door, the version of you that kept giving access, kept believing, kept extending the benefit of the doubt past the point where the doubt was no longer reasonable. That version completed its purpose, grew into something else, something that doesn't need to prove anything to anyone, something that is entirely comfortable with the silence on the other side of the door. That is not coldness, that is completion. And I want to close this section with something very specific. From the very beginning, before any of this escalated, before any of it became what it became, this person felt something about you that they could not put language to. Something that made them want to study you. Something that made them either want to possess you or diminish you. And sometimes, both at the same time. I keep getting this image of someone circling something, not approaching, circling, trying to find the angle, trying to understand the thing, trying to figure out how it works. And what makes it vulnerable? That circling, that was them trying to locate your limit, trying to find where you end. And what they kept discovering, what kept frustrating them, what they never fully resolved, is that you don't end where they expected. You run deeper than they could measure. Your patience outlasted their tests. Your clarity survived their confusion. Your knowing stayed intact. Through all of their attempts to make you doubt it, they were circling something they did not have the range to understand. And somewhere in them, underneath all the noise, underneath all the strategy, they knew that. They knew they were dealing with something they couldn't take apart. And that knowledge did not make them respect you. It made them more determined, which is why they pushed harder, which is why they escalated, which is why they brought more pressure when the first pressure didn't work. They were trying to find the bottom of you. There wasn't one. There still isn't. And that, more than anything else in this entire situation, is what truly broke them. Not your response, your depth, your rise. What is actually coming? Let me talk about you now, just you, because this reading has spent a lot of time on them, and they deserve less of your attention than they've already gotten. So let's close that chapter and open this one. Something is coming for you. And I don't mean that in a vague, feel-good, everything works out way. I mean something specific, something real, something that has been in motion longer than you realize, and is now close enough that you can almost feel the edge of it. For some of you, this is financial, something you built, something you invested in, something you kept working on during the quiet period when it made no logical sense to keep going. It is about to produce a return that surprises you. Not a small one that makes you sit down for a second and just breathe. For others, this is relational. Someone is coming who has none of the qualities of the person this reading has been about. None of the games, none of the circling, none of the testing, just clear intention, clear energy. Clear about wanting you, specifically, not the version of you that shrinks, not the version that performs, not the version that makes itself smaller, to fit somewhere it was never meant to fit. The full version. And for all of you, every single person, this reading belongs to. Recognition is coming. The kind that doesn't ask you to explain yourself, doesn't need you to prove yourself, doesn't arrive with conditions attached, just seeing you. Fully, correctly, finally. And I want to say something about the timing of that recognition. It always arrives after the test. Not before, not during, after. When you have stopped performing for it. When you have stopped chasing it. When you have gotten so comfortable in your own knowing that the external confirmation becomes almost secondary. That is exactly where you are right now, right at the edge of after. The closing reframe, everything they did. I need to say this slowly because I want every word to land. Everything this person did to you. Every test they ran, every pressure they applied, every door they closed, every time they bet against you, every moment they tried to make you feel like you were too much or not enough, or somehow both at the same time, all of it. Every single thing made you more, not less, more clear about what you will and will not accept, more certain about who you are when the external world says otherwise, more rooted, more solid, more impossible to move. They came at you with everything they had, and what they built, without intending it, without knowing it, while they were completely convinced they were dismantling you, was the most unshakable version of you that has ever existed. Think about that. The person they tried to break is gone, but not because they broke you, because you outgrew that version. You outgrew the version that needed their approval, outgrew the version that adjusted itself to fit their comfort. outgrew the version that stayed quiet about things that deserve to be walked away from. That version is gone. And what replaced it? What is standing here right now is something they cannot have created if they tried. Something forged in the specific fire of exactly what they put you through. Which means, and I need you to sit with this, they accidentally built their own worst nightmare. The version of you that cannot be intimidated by them. The version that doesn't need anything from them. The version that has looked at exactly what they are and felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, not longing, just clarity. That version is unstoppable. This is for you. I want to speak directly to you now. Not to the situation, not to them, to you. You have been carrying something heavy for a long time. Not just the weight of what this person did. The weight of staying composed through it. The weight of not collapsing publicly. The weight of continuing to build, continuing to show up, continuing to function, while something inside you was processing something enormous. That takes a strength most people will never understand. Because most people, when it gets that hard, make it visible. They need witnesses to their pain. You didn't do that. You processed it privately, moved through it quietly, came out the other side without making it anyone else's burden. And I need you to hear something. That was not suppression. That was not you being emotionally unavailable or disconnected or any of the things people might have called it. That was dignity. That was you understanding that some things are too sacred to perform, that your pain is not a public event, that your healing is not a spectacle, and that your comeback, your real, quiet, undeniable comeback, doesn't need an announcement either. It just needs to be real. And it is. It already is. Here is what I want you to leave this reading knowing. They thought the silence was your weakness. It was your weapon. They thought your stillness meant nothing was happening. Everything was happening. They thought they were winning because you weren't fighting. You had already won. Not the kind of winning that needs a trophy. Not the kind that needs them to admit it. Not the kind that requires their acknowledgement or their apology or their understanding. The kind of winning that just is quiet, solid, permanent. The kind that shows up in who you are now versus who you were when this started. The kind that lives in the new standard you carry. The new clarity you operate from. The new level of peace that has become your baseline. That is not something they can touch. That is not something they can take. That was never in their hands to begin with. They never had access to the real thing. They had access to the version of you that was still figuring it out. That version graduated, and this version, the one reading this right now, this version has never been more ready for everything that is coming, everything that was held back, everything that was building while they were busy betting against you, everything that has your name on it, it is moving toward you right now. Not rushing, not forcing, just arriving the way things always arrive, when the timing is finally right. And the timing is finally right. Take care of yourself. Everything coming toward you, you earned every single piece of it. If this reading resonated, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Thank you for being here.